AI data center is one step closer to being built in Nueces County. A new study shows a passenger rail system between San Antonio and Austin is possible, and the Kemp's Ridley sea turtles nesting season is smashing all-time highs. Today is Monday, July 27th, 2026, and this is South Texas Midday. I'm Spencer Chioc. Last week, it was announced by Florida-based energy company Hut 8 that they have made a nearly $10 billion agreement with a second investment company that now fully commercializes their AI data center project between Robstown and Calallen. The Beacon Point data center is expected to be 525 acres and use 1 gigawatt of power. That amount of power is similar to 750,000 homes. An economic impact, the project includes around 1,900 temporary construction jobs and an expected 230 full-time jobs once the project is complete. Coming up later on South Texas Midday, how Democratic candidates in North Texas have been reacting to data centers. Governor Greg Abbott toured flood-damaged Salle County, where local leaders say advanced planning helped prevent deaths despite widespread flooding. Texas Public Radio's Corey Cook reports.
Abbott says floodwaters are beginning to recede around Cotulla, but recovery is only starting. The Nueces River crested at more than 29 feet, damaging homes, businesses, and roads, while much of the county remains inaccessible. Abbott says an aerial tour helped state officials understand the scope of the disaster.
By being able to fly over in the air, we were able to observe submerged properties right now that we otherwise would not have seen. That informs us about what needs to be done in response, but also provides us information we need to make our full request to the federal government for their assistance.
Abbott says Texas has deployed more than 2,700 personnel statewide and is asking residents to report property damage as recovery efforts continue. I'm Corey Cook in San Antonio.
A new study by Dallas-based researchers finds nearly all of the region's waterways are likely polluted with microplastics. As KERA's Pablo Arias-Pena reports, climate advocates are calling on policymakers to take action.
The study from Environment Texas Research and Policy Center looked at more than 75 testing sites throughout the state, including White Rock Lake and the Trinity River. Ian Siemens is with Environment Texas. At a news conference at White Rock Lake, he called microplastics an invisible constant in 99% of testing sites.
That means that whether you fish on the Gulf Coast, swim in the hill country, or paddle, for instance, White Rock Lake right here in Dallas, chances are that microplastics are there too.
Siemens called on Governor Greg Abbott and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to enact stronger regulations. I'm Pablo Arias-Pena in Dallas.
Democratic lawmakers are signaling they plan to investigate U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and force changes if they regain control of Congress this fall. Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider reports that's after they held a forum in Houston Friday to gather testimony on the fatal shooting of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo by ICE agents earlier this month.
Houston Congressman Christian Menefee said that ICE, quote, needs to be torn down to the studs and rebuilt into an agency that enforces immigration law while recognizing the dignity of the people that it encounters. But he said that wouldn't happen while Republicans control Capitol Hill.
In January, new leadership will happen in the halls of Congress. And I know that every single person sitting up on the stage right now will be in full-throated support of an investigation.
Congress members on the panel called for reforms ranging from laws requiring body cams and dash cams for ICE agents up to a complete overhaul of the nation's immigration system. I'm Andrew Schneider in Houston.
Earlier this month, several statewide Democratic candidates wrapped up a Plains and Panhandle campaign tour through communities like Amarillo, Plainview, and Abilene, which have long been considered Republican strongholds. They started in Lubbock, with appearances at a roundtable, a rally, and a local protest. A reoccurring topic of these separate events, large-scale data center expansion, and a growing call for state action with a special session of the legislature. KTTZ's Brad Burt reports that concerns over these facilities have crossed party lines for voters in rural Texas, and Democrats are pushing to take advantage.
Riley Rodriguez is the Democratic candidate running for the Texas Senate seat in District 28, which covers parts of the Panhandle down to south of San Angelo and the Rolling Plains. At a rally in Lubbock, Rodriguez said large-scale data centers are what got him started on this campaign. Facilities like Stargate, a $500 billion project to facilitate data for future AI data models, brought 6,000 temporary construction workers and sent rents skyrocketing in Rodriguez's hometown of Abilene.
When Stargate came into Abilene, on day one, we had rent hikes. That ain't nothing but greed. That's not West Texas, and that's not rural Texas, and that's not the Texas that I grew up in. And when I reached out to our representatives, the answer was that's progress. Sometimes we're going to have some growing pains.
Earlier in July, Rodriguez was one of more than 500 West Texans who attended a forum hosted by the city of Lubbock to gather public input on large-scale data centers. The majority spoke against them, with some calling for a moratorium or outright ban of the facilities. Rodriguez's opponent, incumbent Republican Senator Charles Perry, wrote in an op-ed with the Lubbock Avalanche Journal that he believes these data center projects could present an opportunity for shrinking rural communities to build new revenue and draw jobs back, but he added that Texans deserve transparency from developers in the process. Meanwhile, citizens in Childress, a town of about 5,700 people within District 28, came out to protest in mid-July when rents shot up at a local apartment complex, forcing longtime citizens to vacate. Community advocates linked the situation to nearby data center development.
When single mothers are getting displaced and put into hotel rooms, the day that their rent goes up, and they're just trying to get by, that's not progress.
Rodriguez was joined at the rally by other West Texas Democrats and November midterm candidates from across the state, including Ag Commissioner candidate Clayton Tucker, Lieutenant Governor candidate Representative Vicki Goodwin, and Representative Gina Hinojosa, who's competing against Greg Abbott for Texas governor. For some West Texans in a region where Republicans have held the majority for nearly 30 years, the recent level of campaign attention from statewide Democratic candidates is unfamiliar. This March saw record-breaking midterm primary voter turnout across the state, with Democrats in their primary outpacing Republicans for the first time since the presidential year in 2020, and rural voters in Texas casting the highest percentage of all votes. Democrat Kyle Rabel is running against Republican Tom Self for Texas District 19 seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. He remarked on the number of new faces at the rally, both on and off the stage, as a sign of confidence.
We took the entire statewide slate almost, and they came out to Lubbock, Texas. That proves two things, that we are together in this fight, but also that rural Texas is on the radar for us.
Earlier that day, Representative Hinojosa sat down at a round table with Lubbock community members to talk about data centers.
I know that y'all are leaders in this community and you have big fights happening, and I hear you're winning.
In January, developers requested zoning changes over 936 acres of land in northeast Lubbock to build a large-scale data center. Members of the North and East Lubbock Coalition and Lubbock's chapter of the NAACP came to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to advocate against the development. The commission voted against the project, and developers eventually withdrew the proposal. Hinojosa's roundtable included leaders from the group Save Lubbock, which is currently collecting signatures to put an 18-month moratorium on data center development before the city council. The large-scale data processing campuses can take up thousands of acres, with the potential for significant energy and water needs scaling up as the campuses grow, which has left farmers and ranchers across the country feeling pressure to compete with tech companies like Google and Meta. Hallie Bertrand is an organizer with Save Lubbock whose fiance works as a rancher in West Texas.
Agriculture is, in most of the rural areas and a lot of Lubbock as well, our number one industry. And so if that is being decimated by these out-of-state data centers, there's nothing left for us here.
More than 10 years ago, state lawmakers approved a tax break to draw in new development with facilities like large-scale data centers. Now, Governor Abbott, who has called Texas a, quote, centerpiece for AI data centers, is saying they should be banned in rural areas. Hinojosa says that allowing decisions to be made on the local level by electing officials who know their communities means more accountability than when control is held at the state level, but that may not be enough.
People are fighting a fight that is reasonable. People just want power over their communities. They want to say over what's happening. They want basic information about what data centers are doing to our communities and our resources.
Critics on both sides of the political aisle are calling for faster action. After the rally, Democratic candidates came back together, this time joining with outgoing Republican Ag Commissioner Sid Miller. Miller, who lost the GOP nomination to return as ag commissioner in this year's primary, has been an outspoken opponent of data center expansion. Miller told reporters that waiting for the state's response through the regular session would leave time for data center developers to solidify legal responses of their own.
They start in January, they finish in June, and the new laws won't take effect until September 2027. That's over a year away. We don't have 14 months. We need to deal with this now.
Goodwin is running for Texas lieutenant governor seat against incumbent Republican Dan Patrick, but she also currently represents Texans in the Austin area in the Texas House. She said while it probably wouldn't help her campaign schedule between now and November, she's joining the call on Abbott for a special session.
We need transparency from these companies to understand how much water and how much electricity they're going to be using. We need to set in place some regulation to make sure that they aren't pushing the cost of the new infrastructure to bring that water and energy onto us in our homes.
While localized community efforts have seen steps forward, such as the data center ban in San Marcos, smaller rural communities rely more on counties, which do not have the same regulatory control as city offices. Commissioners in other counties have tried to enact moratoriums and been met with lawsuits from developers and warnings from state lawmakers. Without wider authority, West Texans worry county-based developments will remain largely unchecked. I'm Brad Burt in Lubbock.
Recent studies have shown that a passenger rail system between Austin and San Antonio is possible, but getting trains on the tracks is still a long way off. Texas Public Radio's Jerry Clayton has more.
The studies look at two potential routes between the two cities, one along I-35 and the other following State Highway 130 and I-10. Peter Lakoti, president of the nonprofit Texas Rail Advocates, says the idea is gaining traction with Texas legislators on both sides of the aisle.
But the thing is now is legislators are looking and, they're the ones that are driving to Austin and being caught in traffic. And I think they're starting to realize, hey, folks, maybe there is a better way that we can move people in the future.
Lakoti says the biggest barrier to creating a new rail service is coming up with a funding mechanism to pay for the massive, expensive project. Amtrak currently runs a passenger service between the two cities, but not enough to alleviate passenger demand, as some 266,000 vehicles use the I-35 corridor between Austin and San Antonio on a typical weekday. I'm Jerry Clayton in San Antonio.
Finally, a record-breaking nesting season for the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle grew on Friday when a nest was found on South Padre Island. That brings the total up to 692 nests found this year, a 35% increase from the previous high last year. Over half have been found on North Padre Island. The Kemp Ridley sea turtle is the most endangered sea turtle in the world and has been on the endangered species list since 1970. This has been South Texas Midday on your community-owned station, KADT and KVRT. I'm Spencer Chiok. Your community arts calendar and more is on its way next.